Well, welcome everyone from across the globe who are joining us today. We have colleagues from right across, including the United Kingdom, although they're probably in their pajamas or waiting for the recording, I would imagine, as I believe it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. But then we have people from the United States, from India, from Australia, and also from New Zealand that we're aware of. What we'll be covering today, what we're covering today in this case study are areas in which, as learning and development professionals, we can engage line managers in the learning process and also importantly, get their buy-in and support. And then how to make sure that we actually get people doing things differently in the workplace. And that should enable us to get the results that the business is actually looking for. But before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. We do have everyone on mute, but we would encourage you to put any questions you might have into the chat box, and we'll try and answer as many of those questions during the presentation, or if time permits, towards the end as well. If we don't have time, we will respond to those questions along with sending you out the recording after the presentation. Now, to give you a little bit of context and background to where this webinar came from, in a recent survey, we asked some of our colleagues what were their biggest challenges for learning and development in 2019. We got many and varied responses, but there were also some common themes that came through. These included the ability to demonstrate the value of learning and development back to the organization, engaging line managers in their role in learning and development, and also similarly for engaging senior stakeholders. And then the last one that was pretty common was how to get people doing things differently once they were back on the job following any training or learning initiative. Now, we've been very fortunate to have recently worked with Kelly Stewart and Karita McCabe from FMG to gain their Kirkpatrick Silver Level certification. And it's their case study and results that clearly aligned to the issues that L&D professionals are facing today. Some of you may be familiar with the Kirkpatrick Bronze program, which is the ability to understand the needs of the organization to write a very good and robust evaluation plan for any learning initiative. However, Silver certification is really where the rubber hits the road. This is the ability to actually drive on-the-job behaviors and demonstrate positive results of a learning and development initiative, to the point that senior executives actually agree that the application of the learning has contributed to the organization's results. Kelly and Karita join us today to share their experience on how they went about engaging line managers at FMG in the learning process, how they helped build a program of support in the workplace that enabled people to do things differently, and the results that they then achieved. For those not familiar with FMG, it is in fact an insurance organization focused heavily, but not exclusively, on the rural sector in New Zealand. So I'd like to welcome Kelly and Karita.
Thanks.
So Kelly, Karita, tell us a little bit about yourselves, your roles at FMG, and also about FMG as the organisation itself.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. So myself, Karita, I'm a learning and capability consultant in the learning and development team. So like Kelly, we work closely with the business in areas of focus for us. We have a big focus on building relationships, but also working with the business on identifying needs in a learning and development space as well. So something a little bit interesting about me. I've recently, FMG is a rural insurance company. I've recently bought a small lifestyle property, so 6 acres, and we've got some chickens now, so I can almost classify myself as a rural person, and my 4-year-old's loving being able to collect the eggs each day. So that's an exciting new journey for us. With FMG, it is a mutual and it's owned by our members. We have actually just hit over 50% of rural market share, which is really exciting in the insurance industry, and obviously with rural being a big area of focus for us. It's 114 years old and has actually doubled in size in the last few years. So we've got around 650 staff members now, and you can feel the strain on the business as it has grown over time as well, and that is a reason why we need to do things differently. So one of the things we are doing differently is learning, and what we're starting to do is shift from a very traditional learning environment to more of a modern learning environment, and that really focuses on the needs of the people rather than automatically relying on a more traditional classroom-based program that may not be as effective or necessarily sustainable. So part of our strategy is actually to measure the impact of that learning on the business, hence Kirkpatrick's and why we're here today. So we really want to show the business the value and take the business on a journey with us, and then back it up with some real robust data and metrics as well.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Stewart, and like Karita, I'm a learning and capability consultant in the people and culture team at FMG. Unlike Karita though, my children have grown up and are now 21 and 20, so I got a dog to fill the gap between having my young children and getting any grandchildren. But now I have my life back, and I love travelling, and I'm doing as much travel as I can, or as much travel as I can in between work. And I'm off to Sri Lanka in 64 days, which I'm pretty excited about.
Sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
I'd love to be going there. It's a beautiful place. Oh, thanks, guys. Now, some of you may be familiar with the Kirkpatrick New World model shown here. Kelly and Karita will be referring to some specific areas of the model, centering on the level 3 behaviours right in the middle, that kind of bullseye. They'll also be touching on the level 4 results, including a term that you may or may not be familiar with, the leading indicators. And then the big orange part of this model, the need to maintain a monitoring element and then adjusting the program accordingly. For now, it's probably enough to know that the leading indicators are those early signs that the behaviours that you're after are actually starting to impact on business goals and metrics. Surrounding the level 3 behaviours, the outer ring in green, you'll see what are referred to as required drivers. These are the elements of reinforcement, monitoring, encouragement and reward, and these are key to the work that Kelly and Karita have been implementing. So Kelly, recognizing that some elements of this project are commercially sensitive, can you broadly describe the problem you were trying to solve and some of the background that you faced?
Yeah, the focus of today's webinar is some work that we did with our claims team. Over the previous 12 months, the claims team had been struggling with the largest number of open claims ever. And this has caused clients to wait a lot longer than we would like to have their claims settled. The impact of this on the team was that engagement was low, and the client net promoter score or client satisfaction scores were not increasing to help FMG meet its 2021 goals. In order to bring the claims numbers down and to provide that great client experience, we felt there was a need to change the way that the claims team were working. There was a need for them to be more proactively managing their claims and not relying on the default activities in the system to drive their daily work.
Right. Now, I know that one thing was quite unusual about this project, as it started out as a request for training from the business, but you pretty early realised that it wasn't training that was actually required. Can you tell us about this?
Yes, the manager came to us as they had tried to implement the new way of working. So two of the claims consultants had spent a week with the assessing team manager at what we call claims camp. During this week, they learned a new way of managing claims more efficiently with more of a focus on the client experience. They came back from the claims camp all revved up and ready to go, and they attempted to roll out the new way of working to the rest of the team. They and the managers were really disappointed that it wasn't embraced and the consultants continued to do things that they'd previously done. This is where they approached me as their learning and capability consultant and brought me into the picture and asked me, how can we train everybody? After I asked a few questions, I quickly realised that it wasn't training that was required. What was missing was the Kirkpatrick level 3 drivers. So they needed support in order to monitor, encourage, reinforce and reward the claims consultants to change their behaviour. They knew what they needed to do, they just didn't have the drivers that were required to make it happen.
Yeah. Now, in the traditional way, I suppose what could have happened, it would have been very easy for you to have just accepted the request for training and gone ahead and actually done something. Or you could have just walked away and said, this actually isn't an L&D issue. It's a business problem. You manage it. But what you did was you recognise that the role of learning and development very much extends into the workplace and in fact is critical if we're actually to add value. So how did you go about getting the line managers involved and ensure that they understood that they had the main role to play in changing behaviours? And then how did you make the claims team members want to do things differently?
So I guess in lots of the projects and initiatives that we're using Kirkpatrick for, we've learned the value of building trusted relationships first. So it's critical to the ongoing success and actually allows, through having that really solid relationship right up front, allows the ability to have stronger questioning and also push back further into the initiative.
Yeah.
So as part of that planning, we're actually thinking about who our key stakeholders are, the level of influence that they have over others, who we might need to get buy-in from, and who will be able to support and drive it for us. So in order to actually be successful, we need to think about who do we need to influence right from the outset, and that's actually something that's worked really, really well in the claims space as well. Hey, Kelly.
With this specific team, I had done a lot of work with them previously as their learning and capability consultant, so I had a good relationship with the manager and the leaders. I had already built that trust that Karita was just talking about. So what I did to start with is I talked about their expectations, and using a Kirkpatrick plan, I helped them to articulate what their expectations were and what indicators would indicate that we were on the right track to achieving those expectations. We then talked about how embedding this new way of working could meet those expectations. So I really sold them the benefits of wrapping this Kirkpatrick model around what they were trying to achieve. They knew that they had my support, but that they were the ones on the floor with the claims consultants, so they needed to be doing the doing.
All right, so you basically got the line managers on board. How did you then make sure that the claims consultants actually wanted to do things differently?
Again, we included them. So when we met with them to relaunch the new way of working, we ensured that they knew why we wanted the change. We got them to brainstorm the benefits to the client, the benefits to themselves, and the benefits to FMG. One of the managers wanted to ask the team what they thought their challenges would be, but I asked her to use the Kirkpatrick's phrase, necessities for success. This worked really well. Instead of them coming back to us with all the challenges and the reasons why it wouldn't work, they turned up at the next meeting with the far more positive and productive necessities for success, and that allowed the team leaders to then make sure that those things were resolved and they were set up in order for success.
Brilliant.
And those level 3 drivers, they actually help to get the participants to want to do things differently. So they actually saw the benefit and really understood the links and the why. So they got regular coaching and feedback. There, as part of that level 3 stuff, there was encouragement. Success stories were shared at team meetings, they buddied with each other, and we also shared results of like really, really frequently so that they actually saw the open claim numbers going down.
That's great. So you really obtained that that engagement, that buy-in from both the line managers and the I suppose the participants, the claims team members. Now I know that you've also created some pretty unique job aids for the line managers and the claims team members that they were able to use throughout this project. Can you take us through some of these examples of what you've been providing to support line managers and participants in not only this, but some of your other initiatives as well?
Yeah, sure. The one on the screen currently, this is actually a one-pager. So I'll talk about that in a second. We are using lots of these to support projects that we are wrapping Kirkpatrick around. And we find that it actually takes or supports taking people on that journey and helping them to understand where they really fit. And this full page or one pager is basically a summary of a full Kirkpatrick evaluation plan, and it just shows that line of sight right through from what we need to do right at a leader-led level to the people on the floor as well.
Brilliant.
Another document that we've created that we've used in some of our projects that we've been supporting with Kirkpatrick's is this one-page timeline. The purpose of this is to make it easy for managers and team leaders to see exactly what role they play and what they need to do in order to make the initiative a success. So what we've done is we've broken down the level 3 required drivers into the different time frames to guide the leaders. So they know what they need to do. So they know what they need to do when they observe the behaviour. They know what they need to do on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, quarterly, etc. So they have very clear expectations and they can really see what their role is.
That's fantastic. And for those of you that are with us today, just to let you know, we've now taken this particular example and created a standard template that we think will be very useful for everyone, and we'll be sending that to you afterwards. So I really appreciate the fact that Kelly and Karita worked with us to do that, and we'll send you that after this recording.
And this one here, this is just another example for a different initiative, but it just was able, we use this to actually help, so senior and line managers see what they can or should expect to see and when as part of those leading indicators. And again, that was just creating those linkages and that clear line of sight.
That's great, and I love the fact that it's short, medium, and long term that they're seeing there. So those job aids, you know, I know you also produced others, and I think they were fantastic in helping people. And it encouraged them and provided reminders of what they needed to do, but it also monitored them. But you also had a fairly novel way of incentivizing the claims team.
Yes, we did. We introduced a team reward. So as we were carrying out the spot checks on the claims consultants to make sure they were embedding the critical behaviours we wanted to see. So once they had their monitoring results showing 3 out of 3 for the week, they got a chip that they could use to vote for a punishment for the claims leadership team. As you can see here, the water balloons and flower bombs won.
I can quite imagine I probably wouldn't have wanted to be a team leader, but I'd probably prefer water balloons than possibly my busking skills.
And it was great seeing them walk back into the building after they had been ballooned or flower bombed as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. Now, once you had the program up and running, you still needed to make sure that things were going in the right direction. So how did you do that? And what were some of the business results that the team achieved? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really needing to be able to show.
Yeah, so I met weekly with the senior claims consultants and the team leaders, and we discussed the table that you're seeing on screen now. So these were our spot check results. The senior claims consultants spot checked 3 claims per week initially. We did drop it down to 2 after we saw the results starting to increase. and also the claims consultant, the senior's time didn't permit 3 after a little while, so we did drop it down. But they were checking that the 3 critical behaviours were being demonstrated. So on this table, the red represents that they weren't, and the green meant that they were. So you can see that the critical behaviours marked in green increased as the weeks progressed. Those with the red, we worked with them on an individual basis, and we used the ones that were achieving in the green to buddy and to mentor the others.
That's excellent. And obviously you got some real change in behaviour that was occurring, and you can see that in the graph. So what about the results?
Yeah, so we got some great results. So the KRAs that we were monitoring were making a really big impact. Or the new way of working was making a really big impact on the KRAs we were monitoring and the key metrics. So all of the metrics showed improvement, as you will see. So this first one, the Net Promoter Score. So this is a measure of client satisfaction. We expected to see this increase with the new way of working because clients were being kept informed more regularly, and the claims were closed and paid out more quickly. So the NPS was increasing before the change, but this took us beyond where we'd ever been before.
That's great.
This next leading indicator that we were measuring was the number of escalations. So this represented the number of clients who had an issue or a complaint that needed to be escalated to a senior consultant or to a team leader. The new way of working, we expected that we would see less escalations as clients were contacted more regularly and were being supported more to gather information that they required. And as you can see, we had a substantial drop in the number of complaints and escalations that the team leaders were dealing with.
It's a fairly dramatic picture, that one.
It was. And the last one we're going to share today was around a number of open claims. So as I mentioned earlier, this was what drove the initial desire to change the way that they were working. And this is a number of claims that have been lodged and not yet closed, so or in progress claims, I suppose you could call them. We expected to see this reduce with the new way of working, and as you can see, we certainly did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It makes for great reading, even though it's a picture. So the results, and I know there were other leading indicators that you were measuring, and they all showed the same level of improvement. So the results that the team achieved have been quite outstanding. So looking back now, what do you think are probably the key learning and insights that you've had during this process? What would you do again? And anything that you might do differently?
So something, I guess, that was really vital to the success was the timing. So took the area of the business into consideration and their needs as well. So really did, seek to understand the stakeholders' needs. So we did it at the quietest time of the year, so the claims consultants had time to actually focus on trying to embed the new behaviours. And the seniors and managers actually, as a result of that, had time to spot check and give real relevant, valuable feedback on the changes too.
Right, so understanding the business, understand the nature and its operation.
Yep, absolutely.
Significant.
Something else that is really important, and you must ensure that you do, is monitoring and adjusting. So as we were monitoring the results, we found an unintended consequence. When we discovered about a month after the new way of working, we discovered that claims consultants were so focused on the new critical behaviours that they stopped doing a few of the steps in the process before they sent the claim off to the recovery team. The recovery team therefore had more work to do to get the claim ready for recovery, and the value of our total recovery for the following month was way lower than it normally was, on average. By monitoring, we were able to adjust the messaging to the claims consultants, and we made sure that they were aware that some parts of the process were BAU and hadn't changed.
Yeah, so really interesting that, it's the learning and development part of the business that's monitoring what's actually going on and having to adjust and help the business to adjust accordingly. So excellent.
I think it's also really important to let the consultants in on the full plan. so that they were aware of the reason for the monitoring and the benefits to them. So there were some people who felt like they were being micromanaged with all the spot checks and monitoring that was going on because they hadn't had anything like that in the past. So it was important to let them know why. And the other thing that is a key learning and is to share the success with the teams and celebrate the successes. So share the results, share the graphs, and share the stories at team meetings so that they were part of the success as well.
And I can imagine the way those graphs were going, everyone would be pretty proud of what they were seeing too. Yeah, so they'd be seeing the results.
And they were feeling the results because they had less claims in their portfolio to manage, so they could feel it as well.
And hence the reason why they're all looking so happy in that photograph.
That's right.
So if you, again, were to think about our audience today, what would really be your number one piece of advice to them when starting a process like this?
I'd probably say get the foundations right first. So spend the time up front ensuring that you've got a strong relationship, strong trust, that you are seeking to understand and not just forming assumptions. It's easy to do, to form assumptions, but it's important to step away from that and actually really take time to understand the business. And then basically once you've done that, the rest follows quite naturally. So if you focus on that really good stuff first, then the rest does happen.
Yeah, for me, my number one piece of advice is, and sounds like a bit of a sales pitch and a bit cliche, but the Kirkpatrick Model is a great tool. The principles from it can be applied to so many different business initiatives or activities. So it helps to formulate and ask the right questions at the start to determine if it is a training need. And then using those level 3 drivers can help embed a change in behaviour, whether it be after training or just after a change.
That's fabulous. So in this case, learning and development didn't actually provide training, but what you've managed to do and what you've actually done has still had a huge impact, a positive impact on the business. Now we have about 2 minutes remaining, David, I believe. So do we have any questions in the chat box at this stage?
Yeah, there's one question around what would you, in hindsight, with another initiative, what would you do less or what would you not do?
That's a good question. To be honest, I don't think there's anything I would do less or not spend time on. I think all of it was important. It was really important for us to understand the business, ask the right questions to start with. It's really important to be monitoring and identifying those leading indicators, and it's really important to be feeding back and meeting regularly with the consultants and with the team to feed it back. So I can't say there's anything that I would spend less time on, because I think it was all of the time we invested is what made it a success.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks, Kelly. So look, that if any of you would like to know more about the Kirkpatrick Business Partnership Model or the evaluation certification, we are running certification programs in Wellington, Canberra, and also online for the first time, and that's timed for the Asia Pacific region. So we'd love to see you on one of those programs. But if you've just got any further questions, please connect with us. Please reach out. We'd love to help you. It's been an absolute privilege working with FMG and with Kelly and Karita. They've made some fantastic results, and we'd love to see you all achieve exactly the same. So thank you for your attendance. We will send you, as I mentioned, the recording of this webinar straight after the presentation, and we'll be sending you that simple job aid that, as I say, thanks to Karita and Kelly, we can share with you. So our sincere thanks to Karita and Kelly for their time today. We hope you've got something out of the webinar, and we look forward to talking with you all very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.